Right. It is a beautiful day, and I realize that I have something to say that I can't fit into 3 minutes. Hello, I am Shaggy. I am Philalitea, and this is going to be a long form. I don't know how long it's going to go, and I'm not going to edit it, so buckle your pants. Um, or unbuckle your pants. I don't care what you do with your pants. I meant to say buckle your seatbelt. Anyway, we're going to talk today about learning. About learning. Something you can't know about me unless you've watched the playlist I titled Book One, or this series I titled Intellect and Consciousness. It's a 5-part, 2 hours apiece series where I discuss intellect and consciousness without using those words. I'm very proud of it, but it is 10 hours. Um, Something you can't know if you haven't listened to those. You just can't know with certitude about me is that I've been experimenting with my consciousness since I was about 6 years old. Uh, an example, for example, when I was very little, I can remember doing this when I was 7. I used to lie on my back on the couch when I was bored, when there was nothing particular to do, and instead of playing a video game or reading a book or watching TV or whatever, I would turn everything off, and I would lay on my back, and I would stare on the ceiling until I could feel my consciousness above my body, where my proprioception was no longer within my brain pan, but above it, where I could propriocept my body as behind me. And now I don't think that's an out-of-body experience, and I don't think that's like an astral projection or something, anything like that. But it did require a very specific uh, mind-body state. So I've been meditating, and I've been experimenting with my consciousness, with what's going on in the mind-body construction as we have it since I was about 7, which means since 1994. And daily. This isn't something that I used to just like do every once in a while. It was something that once I figured out I could do it once, I did it every day, all the time. I do it all the time. Uh, I did it until my life got complex enough that I no longer could, and then that was around middle school, and then by high school I found transcendental meditation, not with initial caps, but I used to, instead of sleeping, I would put myself into an upright meditative position, lotus, and I would just go and sit at the throne of God. Okay, so I've been experimenting with my consciousness for a while. So what do I want to talk about? I want to talk about learning. I want to talk about learning because I'm listening to this lecture series titled "The Learning Brain," and now I stopped listening to it initially because I know all of this stuff. I've read the neurology papers, and I've been experimenting with my own consciousness since I was 6 or 7, whatever I said, to remain consistent. But in first grade, I figured out that my parents weren't going to help me with my schoolwork, so anything I was going to learn and anything I was going to remember was on me. And so I've been experimenting with and hyper aware of my learning, not just what I can retain long enough to pass a test, but what I retain from day to day to day since I was 6, since first grade. Um, I'm a July baby, so I was the youngest person in my class in every class I was in. Parents, don't do that to your July babies. Make them wait the year, even if they're bored. Make them wait the year. Put them in preschool or give them a job or something. It's not good for our development to always be the youngest, um, because we're also the least experienced. We're easy to bully. We're the smallest developmentally, and we just never get a birthday. Never get a birthday in class, and so since we're the smallest and the most socially inexperienced, we also never have anybody that shows up to our birthdays in the summer. So wait that year, because all the July babies that were in my class that were a year older that had waited the year, they were all popular, right? Because they were socially savvy from that 1 year of cognitive development. And so I've been interested in cognitive development since I was about 5, 6. I had a younger brother, 4 years younger than I was, and so it became tantamount to me by first grade that I master this material, because my parents aren't going to help him master it either, you see. And then I have 2 younger sisters as well, one 8 and one 10 years younger than me, and so I took that responsibility very seriously. I took it very seriously, and children who are products of the kind of abuse that I would, like the way my father explained to me what having a little brother was sitting me down when I was not even 4 years old yet. It was February 22nd of 1990, and he explains to me that I have a little brother coming now, and he's my responsibility. I have to take care of him. I have to protect him, and I have to be there to guide him. I'm his older brother now, and that means something. So our relationship is all fucked up, and I haven't talked to him since 2010 or thereabouts, 2012, since I got married. And that's irrelevant, but it's all background information. You need to know me, because like a lot of the people who will sit and tell you that they're wellness gurus or their mental health this or their mental health that, like if you just read the literature, and I have several videos of me doing that, you will notice that these people have never gone through anything difficult in their lives, never once. For example, if you were to follow Jordan Peterson as his career has developed, you'll notice that this is the most difficult thing he's ever had to deal with, and he's doing it as somebody who can count up to 1 million at least in his public income. Okay, so learning is important to me. When I was a senior in high school, I made sure that I did post-secondary college option, which means that I got to go to Shawnee State University for college credit toward my with my high school time, right? So what do they call those? I guess my high school credits, I got to go to college or whatever, however you want to say it. But my school didn't offer a psychology course. So I finished all of my credits that I needed to graduate except for English 4, and then I took college classes. That's what I did. And learning is important here, because whether I've mastered learning or not is, I guess, up to you to decide on some level. But what I have done is I've perfected learning for me, right? Because I had basically dropped out of high school. I gave no fucks. I don't know how I passed my classes. I didn't turn in any homework. I didn't do any homework ever, and there were a lot of tests that I just turned in blank. Like, fuck it. Tests are important here. We're gonna start at 9 minutes with the most beneficial learning technique, or the most beneficial thing that you can do right now to make sure that you learn anything that you want to learn. So I'm listening to this course, and he asks, if you were going to study this course, the information that I'm giving in this lecture, this current one, if I were going to give a test, how would you study for it? And my answer was, I wouldn't. And the answer for that is twofold. The first reason is the mechanical and neurological reason, and I'll give you that one in a moment. But the second reason is the deeper, the aletheia truth, and that is that the only judge of me, the only evaluation of me and what I've learned that matters to me is mine. You understand? I don't care what a standardized test wants me to learn. I care what I learn. I care what I learn. And so instead of taking the neo-libertarian or the anti-intellectual that standardized testing negatively impacts learning by fitting what you learn to the test, I just felt like what I was learning wasn't deep enough to capture my interest. So I learned what was being presented, and then I learned more contingent on my interest. And if I wasn't interested in what was being presented, I just didn't do the test because I didn't care to evaluate what I learned, because I hadn't learned anything. And then the neurological is that, frankly, the best way to learn anything is to test yourself on it. Test yourself and to be tested. And so the reason, he says, if I were to give a test on this information, how would you study for it? The reason I wouldn't study for it is not because I'm confident in what I know. It's because I'm more interested in what I know in error. I'm more interested in where I'm wrong because of the that's the most beneficial way to learn, is to test what you know, to either be tested by somebody else or to test yourself. And so, like, taking the example of my tent and my inability to build a customer base, a consumer base who are willing to pay in increments with the note, hey, replace your tent, you need to replace your tent, something like that. Donating toward a new tent, something like that. What I'm learning is that I'm not building that. And so I'm not learning why I'm not building that, because I'm not getting good faith feedback, right? I talk about this all the time, and I push your buttons sometimes by saying it like I'm mad about it, like I'm your parent, because I'm very funny. But the second way to learn, branching off of testing and being tested, is to be wrong. Giving yourself the right to be wrong is, in my opinion, more valuable than the test. For example, whether you're an athlete or interested in sports or not, or whether you're an academic. When I was a student in the 90s, they used to call us academic athletes. So I've been conditioned to think in the particular way that I'm expressing myself, because you can only express yourself in terms of what you think, and you can only think in terms of what you've been taught. You can only think in terms of what you have learned, even if what you've learned is wrong, and objectively so. So testing, being wrong, it's interesting because there's some data that shows that multiple choice is actually harmful, because you tend to remember the answer you gave, whether it was right or not. But essays, for example, or dialectic, like I would be doing if there were a person here with me to discuss this and keep me moving in a partnership, so that I don't quite so often. Error is instructive. So if you write an essay and you're just wrong, and your teacher's like, okay, yeah, well, you're just wrong, you're not going to remember what you said if you're trying to learn the material. Now, if you're trying to defend that you're right, you're going to double down, and now you're fucked. Now you're in a Dunning-Kruger echo chamber within your own ego and your own cognition structure, and you're fucked dead. Just like, Aaron Rodgers and his stupid stance on vaccines, or anybody with an outright anti-vaccine stance. Like, you're just fucked, dead, literally. You're gonna die, or you're gonna result in the death of someone else because of your stupidity. And I'm not vaccinated for COVID, by the way, but I'm not anti-vax. I'm just not at risk. And I'm not an asshole who doesn't know how to cough properly. But this is what I'm saying. Like, if you never learned how to cough, and then somebody teaches you to cough properly, and you don't just take in the information because you're either an active or a passive recipient to change, you're just fucked. You're just fucked dead, and nobody can teach you anything. You can't teach an active resistor of change, and passive resistors go the way of active resistors. So if you're in a community, if you're in a team, I was taught this in corporate management training. If you're on a team and you have an active resistor, what you have to do is remove the active resistor from the team, because without an active resistor, the passive resistor will do what the passive acceptor does. And so the moment you're presented with new information and you don't accept that it can be true, and then evaluate whether it is or is not based on what you know, and if you're not able to evaluate what you know based on what has been presented to you, you can't learn anything, and you're fucked. You're fucked. You can never learn. You get into this, the lecture series keeps using amnesia, but you get into this amnesiac state with your neurons, where not enough of your neurons are cross-firing for you to be able to learn. You have too much cognitive dissonance in order to even take in the new information. That's why most people's response to new information is an ad hominem attack on the character of the person presenting it, rather than an evaluation of the new information itself. And so the best way, really, the best way, in my opinion, to learn is to be wrong, and to admit that you might be wrong. And again, if you want to get around Dunning-Kruger, the first way around Dunning-Kruger is to admit that you might not know what the fuck you're talking about. You might actually not be an expert at everything. You might not have mastered every single possible human skill just because you're pretty good at one thing. So self-doubt as part of the self-evaluation, the self-testing, and the freedom, the right to be wrong apparatus for learning, mean that you're also not stuck in a Dunning-Kruger feedback loop, where because you're smart at something, you're dumb at everything else, and too dumb at self-awareness, another skill, to realize that you're a harm to everyone around you outside of your one skill. You can think of a million examples, but like, why do we ask actors, like, what the fuck does an actor know about being a politician? And the answer is, well, like, maybe an actor has spent like a lot of time fucking around with that stuff, but the evidence is like, what does Aaron Rodgers know about the pyramids? Fuck all is what he knows about the pyramids. But he can throw a football like a son of a bitch, but that doesn't mean he's qualified to talk about the pyramids. And so I'm not qualified to talk about this. I'm really not qualified to talk about this, except I've been doing it for 32 years by my count, teaching myself how to learn, and then learning well. Like, if you were to look over my shoulder, if you were to show up when I do like conversations with AI, and I just talk to an AI, because I got that break in the spine of my tent, I have to distract myself. Otherwise, I'm going to be staring at video games that won't make me money, and just freaking out about how I've only got $15, and that's not $80. And I don't want to. I just got my debt down from 100 back to a manageable 50, and I don't want to take out another 100 and make that 150. Because if I replace my tent, I need to replace my mat, and I need to replace my sleeping bag. And so instead of thinking about things over which I have no control, I just chose to think about something else and see if maybe it helped me work on The Last Sandcastle, or maybe it helped me formulate thoughts that I can share with humans in some other artistic, expressive manner. And It did. We generated some images together eventually. And I'm here now doing a long form talking about learning, which is a skill that I'm very good at. And I don't remember all of the others. I really just don't remember all of the others. Like it's on some level, now I'm waffling in true Shaggy Dog storytelling style, trying to see if I can remember any of them and get you there without pausing and taking a moment, or without listening to the thing and writing them all down and making you a listicle. But 20 minutes seems like a pretty good introduction to this conversation. So let's like this, and let's comment on this, and let's hit up my Patreon with free memberships, and let's hit up my PayPal or my Cash App or my Venmo as suits you, and let's tell me what you want more of from me, right? Like, I gotta know. It's like I worked retail and service for 15 years. And what I learned is that people know what they want. They just don't know that they know it, right? Like, I used to work in a pizza place, right? And so people come in and they're all indecisive. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. I don't know what I want. And so you just like, well, what do you usually get? But I want, and it's like, okay, take a minute, come back, and they're gonna get what they usually get. They needed help expressing it because they don't have all of these interconnected neuronal networks. They don't have all these neurons connected together so that they can think. And that's another way that he presented that you can learn. It's another effective way to learn, and that's to apply what you're studying or what you're learning about, what you're researching, to things outside the field that you're researching. So for example, if like today I wanted to talk and think about the books I'm reading, which are scholarship about the Middle Ages. And so it's hard to talk about scholarship in the Middle Ages and just hey, I want to talk about this, and this is what I want to talk about, without laying down all the groundwork. And so what I did is I talked about how these ghost stories coming out of France and Germany and Italy in the Middle Ages actually established a lot of the tribalism of modern American politics. And that's not a conversation that a human wants to have or can understand, because they can't rapidly digest and Google and already know all of this stuff about the Middle Ages. But another way to learn is to contextualize what you're thinking about in areas outside of the context. So like if you're learning about early childhood development, don't just apply it to you, apply it to the building of that chair that you're doing or whatever. Just apply what you're doing to everything. That's how you can learn things rapidly, is by just thinking about them a lot and thinking about them outside of their normal archaeological strata, so to speak. Another way to learn, another good way that is effectual to learn, is through intermittent engagement, and that means taking breaks. So like he kept using the example of like playing guitar, and what's true is that the science showed that the first hour your brain is engaged and making new connections. After that, your brain is bored and it's not making new connections. So any practice, any learning that you do that's not engaged is learning that you're wasting your time with. So like if you're going through a book and you're highlighting it thinking, oh, these are the parts that I want to remember when I'm reading through next time, you're just going to read those passages as bored. You're going to read them in the cognitive state bored, thinking that there's nothing extra to mine from the words around them. So not only are you not going to learn anything from what you've highlighted, you're not going to learn anything at all. You're not even going to learn that the highlighting was ineffectual. You're just going to learn something like, I just don't like reading. Because you're going to associate the way you read and the absorption with which you divide your attention to the thing that you're reading or that you're trying to learn. You're going to learn that those have no bearing on the test at the end, because you're right. And what you're going to do is you're just going to decide not to do the reading part anymore, the learning at all, the effort toward learning part. And then so if taking breaks is helpful, and then doing the thing outside its context is helpful, then like if you're a guitarist, then listening for the musical fingerings or the chord shapings of music that you hear in the mall or like here outside Panera. In this video, I just realized you can hear that, so this video is probably going to get taken down, which upsets me, but I just have to do what I can do. This is where I'm at. I'll just put it on my Patreon if that's the case. I'm not trying to make money selling the music, and I legitimately forgot it was there. And so that means that the literature on learning is similar to the literature on expanded states of consciousness, specifically the literature in the book DMT, the Spirit Molecule. What that team found dosing people with DMT is that set and setting are the most important thing when experimenting with consciousness. That the set of your mind and the setting in which you're doing the thing are really the only factors that matter. So if you go into reading a book that you have to study in a bad mood, you're going to learn what you were learning. You're going to learn what you went into it feeling. And that may be nothing. You might actually spend 0 moments even thinking about what you're reading because you're in a bad mood. And then if you're in a busy, distractible setting like this that has music like that, you might not learn anything there either, because you might be spending too much time, rather than listening to my voice, you might be spending too much time watching my teeth or this shadow or that noise. And all of those distracting elements are there by me on purpose. They're there to give you practice. You need practice focusing through the noise, because you have to think no matter where you are. And if you're in a crisis moment in your life, you don't get to just pause life so you get to think. Absolutely not. It's like when that guy attacked me in that intersection in Columbus. It's like I'm walking across the street. I've got the green light and the little dude, and he zooms his car so that his door is parallel with me as I'm approaching him. So if I had not waited, seeing him not slowing down, I'd be dead. He would have killed my ass in his giant fucking Escalade. So what I did is I flipped him off. I gave him one of those. Well done, sir. As he's backing up. And then he turns his car off and gets out of it. And I said, is that really what you want to do right now? And he starts screaming about how I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. And I said, okay, I guess I die today. And I released my backpack. That happened. I have the police record and everything. That happened. So I learned something from that moment too, but I've gone and triggered myself because I don't need to tell the whole story, and it's not a good story for YouTube anyway. He pretended to pull a gun on me, thinking I would be scared of him. Whatever. In that situation, what I didn't have was the time to pause and evaluate the choice that I was going to make. I knew I was standing in the middle of a busy intersection and that the light had gone red while I was standing there flipping him off. Not red. My light had gone red. His light had gone green, and I could see that all of the traffic in the intersection was waiting to see what would happen now that he's out of his car. And so I made the choice to give these people a show. Let these people see what their impotent rage actually looks like. And I let him put his hands around my neck and feebly and effetely, actually was using his fingernails on my trachea right here, which wasn't even strong enough. He kept pinching it. He wasn't even strong enough to get in behind the muscles of my neck. Anyway, I just let him effetely try to rip my throat out. He broke the skin right here. There was like a nice fingernail size depression right there, but otherwise I didn't have bruises or anything like that. Until he was done. And then I asked, "You done?" And he walks over to his car. So I go to shove him. I shove him in the back. "Get up into your car." So I told him, "Run away, you fucking pussy." And then he turns around and he jams what is pretending to be a gun into my chest. And I didn't have time to pause and decide, oh, what am I going to do now? Am I going to think this out? No, I have to make a decision. If that's a gun, I either have to back down right now because I don't want to be dead, or I have to make a choice. So I made the choice. I told him, "Go ahead, dude. Go ahead. End my suffering for me right now in front of God and all the people in this intersection. Show everybody how much of a man you are." And he flinched. So I punched him in the face with a left hook. I'm right hand dominant. I'm actually surprised it landed. It felt impotent as I was throwing it because it's my non-dominant hand. I didn't want to hurt him. I just wanted him to know that there are consequences for your actions, even if you're a rich white asshole in Columbus who drives an Escalade like he thinks he's a rapper. And then I walked away. He punched me in the back of the head. And then a guy pulled him off of me and gave me my hat back. And I picked up my backpack and walked off. And then a cop tackled me, tried to tackle me. Again, effete and effeminate. I was athletic at the time, though. And I just told him as he's trying to wrestle me to the ground, I didn't resist. I just stood still, planted my feet apart, and said, "You really have no reason to put your hands on me." He was the aggressor. He got out of his car, and he goes, "You know, I didn't even think about that." Yeah, no shit you didn't think about that. How the fuck did I end up in a fist fight in an intersection with a guy who ostensibly began the fist fight in a car? He had to get out. He had to have been the aggressor. And this is the point. Even that cop didn't actually have the time or the experience necessary to make a good decision. And so I'm telling you is that if you want the time and the experience necessary to make good decisions for yourself, you better get learning. You better get learning. So another way to learn, another very good way to learn, is to talk about what you're learning. One piece of advice that I give to young men, especially young men that aren't interested in women for marriage, but do like women enough that they would enjoy sleeping with them frequently, that they would like to have a frequent partner, is to just talk about whatever. Just talk. And don't shut up. But make it about your thing. And just talk like crazy. When I used to just talk like crazy about UFO stuff to anybody who would listen, and even people who wouldn't listen, just, if you're going to talk to me, I'm going to be talking about this, because it's what I'm learning, trying to memorize, trying to incorporate in how I think, trying to make new, that is novel, synaptic connections between what you're talking about and what I'm thinking about. Is just talk. Because at some point that girl is going to realize that you're teaching her things and that you're valuable in your own right. And so my shorts, like, 2 people have figured it out, but my shorts are valuable in their own right. Somebody today told me that. I need to end this, because those are all of the techniques that I can remember. That's 5. And 5 is a listicle. But yeah, study group only works because you're talking about it. And so intermittent, right? Do it sometimes. And then when you're not doing it, think about it. And when you're not thinking about it, talk about it. That's how you learn. That's how you learn. Total immersion. Total immersion. You have to make it a full brain, comprehensive immersion in order to learn anything. If you want to memorize something, fine. There are methods for memorizing it, but it's useless information to you. Only recallable under the specific conditions that you were memorizing it for, and it's just not helpful to you. Like I've known so many nurses who are useless to themselves and everyone else because they memorized the information at medical school, nursing school, instead of learning it. And so there you go. There you go. There's a Shaggy Filalitea endorsement of learning, how to do it, five techniques that you can implement today to be a better learner today. Take care of yourself. Tell me what you learned in the comments.